what today is? Today is Monday. And on Monday, all roads lead to book club. And so I'm so excited to be here. We're just about finished. Think and Grow Rich. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Nina, why are you so passionate about book club? Why is book club so important? Why do I even need to read? Right. And what I've learned over my years, because reading rather is what led me to earn a 7-figure income. Right. So reading is it's what led me to earning a 7-figure income. Now, here's the deal. Leaders are readers. That's number one. Number two, we are never going to earn more than we learn, right? And number three, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So as you're logging on, you know what to do. Let us know where you're logging in from, what city, what state, and or what country. You want to tag and share so that everyone that's not on here needs to know that we are live and that this is the place to be for book club, because we want to grow together. And number four, if I had to add a number four, it would just be to be here with me, right? And to get this energy. And I am so excited about the community that we've created to grow together. I am so passionate about wellness and wealth, and wellness, not just in our physical bodies, but even in our mental capacity, in our emotional state, in our spiritual state. And so this book club is all a part of wellness and why I am passionate about wellness. So last week, we are in the very last chapter of Think and Grow Rich. You know, we're about to start our new book next week. And we went over the symptoms of the fear of poverty. And now we're at money talks. Some will ask, why did you write a book about money? Why measure riches in dollars alone? Some will believe, and rightly so, that there are other forms of riches more desirable than money. Yes, there are riches which cannot be measured in terms of dollars, but there are millions of people who will say, give me all the money that I need and I will find everything else that I want. The major reason why I wrote this book on how to get money is the fact that the world has but lately passed through an experience that left millions of men and women paralyzed with the fear of poverty, very similar to what we're going through right now. And here's the deal. Even there's a good book that I read called the Bible. And even in the Bible, it says money answers all things. If you're not well, money answers all things, because you need finances to provide the kinds of food and medicines or alternative medicines and things for wellness that you need. Money answers all things. If you're having marital issues, normally they're stemmed around money, right? That's normally the foundational basis of marital issues. Money answers all things. And so we're right now, our world is in a state of chaos, of uncertainty, where people are struggling, real estate, trying to rent and mortgage, gas, the price of food, all of those things are high. We're right now at that place where people are paralyzed with the fear of poverty. What this sort of fear does to one was well described by Westbrook Pegler in the New York World Telegram Viz. Money is only clamshells or metal discs or scrapes of paper. And there are treasures of the heart and soul which money cannot buy. But most people, being broke, are unable to keep this mind and sustain their spirits. When a man is down and out and on the street, unable to get a job, get any job at all, something happens to his spirit, which can be observed in the droop of his shoulders, the set of his hat, his walk, and his gaze. He cannot escape a feeling of inferiority among people with regular employment, even though he knows they are differently not his equals in character, intelligence, or ability. Now, we talked about posture last week and the week before. Get them shoulders up. Get those shoulders up, because it's a sign of weakness, right? And clearly it doesn't matter that you might have better character, intelligence, or ability than someone that has a good job, right? But it shows in our posture. And sometimes when you don't have money, it is a thing that could cause you to feel inferior, which is why we all must learn to think and grow rich. All right. These people, even his friends, feel, on the other hand, a sense of superiority and regard him, perhaps unconsciously, as a casualty. He may borrow for a time, but not enough to carry on in his accustomed way, and he cannot continue to borrow very long. But borrowing in itself, when a man is borrowing merely to live, is a depressing experience. And the money lacks the power of earned money to revive his spirits. Of course, none of this applies to bums or habitual never-do-wells, but only to men of normal ambitions and self-respect. So this is saying, what we're saying is not the person that lies around and desires to do nothing with his life. That's not what this is saying. This is not talking about the person that desires to just be out there on the streets doing nothing. This is talking about people who just kind of fall into a place, right, where life begins to happen and it spirals out of control and you don't even know how you got there. Women conceal despair. Women in the same predicament must be different. We somehow do not think of women at all, and considering the down and outers, they are scarce in the breadlines. They rarely are seen begging on the streets, and they are not recognizable in the crowds by the same plain signs which identify busted men. Of course, I do not mean the shuffling hags of the city streets who are the opposite number of the confirmed male bums. I mean reasonably young, decent, and intelligent women. There must be many of them, but their despair is not as apparent. I'm going to put as apparent. Even though the book says apparent, I'm going to say as apparent. Maybe they kill themselves, right? When a man is down and out, he has time on his hands for brooding. He may travel miles to see a man about a job and discover that the job is filled, or that it is one of those jobs with no base pay but only a commission on the sale of some useless knickknack which nobody would buy except out of pity. Turning that down, he finds himself back on the street with nowhere to go but just anywhere. So he walks and he walks. He gazes into store windows at luxuries which are not for him and feels inferior and gives way to people who stop to look with an active interest. He wanders into the railroad station or puts himself down in the library to ease his legs and soak up a little heat, but that isn't looking for a job. So he gets going again. He may not know it, but his aimlessness would give him away even if the very lines of his figure did not. He may be well dressed in the clothes left over from the days when he had a steady job, but the clothes cannot disguise the droop. Now, I want to say this because there's no job in the world that's going to make you rich. Not a one. Jobs are not designed to make us rich. And although there may be some jobs that are better paying than others, it's the owners of these jobs, the CEOs, the high-level execs that get paid the big money. So you need to start thinking about some side hustle, some things on the side. What kinds of ideas? And I said this morning while I was on a live. I said it last night. We pray for money and God gives us thought. We pray for money and God gives us ideas. It's not about a job that's going to make you rich, but money makes difference. He sees thousands of other people, bookkeepers or clerks or chemists or wagon hands, busy at their work and envies them from the bottom of his soul. They have their independence, so we think, right? Their self-respect and manhood. And he simply cannot convince himself that he is a good man too, though he argue it out and arrive at a favorable verdict hour after hour. It is just money which makes the difference in him. With a little money, he would be himself again. So some employers take the most shocking advantage of people who are down and out. The agencies hang out little colored cards offering miserable wages to busted men, $12 a week, $15 a week, $17 a week. Job is a plum, and anyone with $25 a week to offer does not hang the job in front of his agency on a colored card. I have a want ad clipped from a local paper demanding a clerk, a good clean penman, to take telephone orders from a sandwich shop from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for $8 a month. Not $8 a week, but $8 a month. The ad says also, state your religion. Can you imagine the brutal effrontery of anyone who demands a good, clean penman for 11 cents an hour, inquiring into the victim's religion? But that is what busted people are offered. So imagine there are some people that are selling their souls for $12 an hour, $14 an hour, $17 an hour, $25 an hour now. And the reality of it is There are people that are playing on your intelligence and causing you to believe that it is the dream to get a job paying $25 an hour when God owns everything. We settle for wages. We settle for what the world says that we can have based on the knowledge that we've acquired through a paper in school. So then we live the fear of criticism. Just how man originally came by this fear, no one can state definitely. But one thing is certain, he has it in a highly developed form. Some believe that this fear made its appearance about the time that politics became a profession. Others believe it can be traced to the age when women first began to concern themselves with styles and wearing apparel. This author, being neither a humorist nor a prophet, is inclined to attribute the basic fear of criticism to that part of man's inherited nature, which prompts him not only to take away his fellow man's goods and wares, but to justify his action by criticism of his fellow man's character. It is a well-known fact that a thief will criticize the man from whom he steals, that politicians seek office not by displaying their own virtues and qualifications, but by attempting to besmirch their opponents. The fear of criticism takes on many forms, the majority of which are petty and trivial. Bald-headed men, for example, are bald for no other reason than the fear of criticism. Heads become bald because of the tight-fitting bands of hats, which cut off the circulation from the roots of hair. Men wear hats not because they actually need them, but mainly because everyone is doing it. The individual falls into line and does likewise, lest some other individual criticize him. Where women seldom have bald heads and even thin hair because they wear hats which fit their head loosely, the only purpose of the hats is being adornment. But it must not be supposed that women are free from the fear of criticism. If any woman claims to be superior to man with reference to this fear, ask her to walk down the street wearing a hat of the vintage of 1890. The astute manufacturers of clothing have not been slow to capitalize on this basic fear of criticism, with which all mankind has been cursed. Every season, the styles and many articles of wearing apparel change. But who establishes the styles? Certainly not the purchaser of the clothing, but the manufacturer. Why does he change the styles so often? The answer is obvious. He changes the styles so he can sell more clothes. For the same reason, the manufacturers of automobiles, with a few rare and very sensible exceptions, change styles of models every season. No man wants to drive an automobile which is not of the latest style, although the older model may actually be the better car. We have been describing the manner in which people behave under the influence of the fear of criticism as applied to the small and petty things of life. Let us now examine human behavior when this fear affects people in connection with the more important events of human relationship. Take, for example, practically any person who has reached the age of mental maturity. From age 35 to 40 years of age, as a general average, and if you could read the secret thoughts of his mind, you would find a very decided disbelief in most of the fables taught by the majority of the dogmatists and theologians, a few decades back. Not often, however, will you find a person who has the courage to openly state his belief on this subject. Most people will, if pressed far enough, tell a lie rather than admit that they do not believe the stories associated with that form of religion which held people in bondage prior to the age of scientific discovery and education. Why does the average person, even in this day of enlightenment, shy away from denying his belief in the fables which were the basis of most religions a few decades ago? The answer is because of the fear of criticism. The time was, and not so far in the past, when criticism carried severe punishments. It still does in some countries. The fear of criticism robs man of his initiative, destroys the power of imagination, limits his individuality, takes away his self-reliance, and does him damage in 100 other ways. Now, I got to stop right there because most people stay on lame, dead-end jobs because of the fear of criticism. The very moment, it's amazing. I watch all over social media. The very moment somebody says, I got a new job, everybody's cheering and, oh my God, yes. But the very moment that somebody says, I started a new business, crickets, crickets, crickets. The very moment that you decide to do something that's unconventional, that brings criticism. So most people stay in prison on a job because they fear criticism from their peers. Now, parents often do their children irreparable injury by criticizing them. The mother of one of my boyhood chums used to punish him with a switch almost daily, always completing the job with the statement, you'll land in the penitentiary before you are 20. He was sent to a reformatory at the age of 17. Criticism is one form of service of which everyone has too much. Everyone has a stock of it, which is handed out gratis, whether called for or not. One's nearest relatives often are the worst offenders. It should be recognized as a crime. In reality, it is a crime of the worst nature for any parent to build inferiority complexes in the mind of a child through unnecessary criticism. Employers who understand human nature get the best there is in men, not by criticism, but by constructive suggestion. Parents may accomplish the same results with their children. Criticism will plant fear in the human heart or resentment, but it will not build love or affection. So what are the symptoms of the fear of criticism? Now, we dealt with the symptoms of the fear of poverty. What are the symptoms of the fear of criticism? This fear is almost as universal as the fear of poverty, and its effects are just as fatal to personal achievement, mainly because this fear destroys initiative and discourages the use of imagination. The major symptoms of fear are self-consciousness, which is generally expressed through nervousness, timidity in conversation and in meeting strangers, awkward movement of the hands and limbs, and the shifting of your eyes. Lack of poise, expressed through the lack of voice control, nervousness in the presence of others, poor posture of body, and poor memory. Symptoms of the fear of criticism, y'all: lack of poise, personality, lacking in firmness of decision. Oh, when you're indecisive, personal charm, and the ability to express opinions definitely. The habit of sidestepping issues instead of meeting them squarely, agreeing with others without careful examination of their opinions. The inferiority complex, the habit of expressing self-approval by word of mouth and by actions as a means of covering up a feeling of inferiority, using big words to impress others, often without knowing the real meaning of the words, imitating others in dress, in speech, and manners, boasting of imaginary achievements. This sometimes gives a surface appearance of a feeling of superiority. Y'all, we got to stop trying to copy people. Exactly what they say, exactly what they do. Be an original copy. Exactly what they put. Like, change it up some. Like, you gotta have a presence of your own. Be your own person. And sometimes I watch people, not only do you do it, but you do it like right away. Be your own person. Find your own voice, right? You can copy maybe somebody's style, but you use your own words. You don't do exactly what they do. Extravagance, the habit of trying to keep up with the Joneses, spending beyond one's income, lack of initiative, failure to embrace opportunities for self-advancement, fear to express opinions, lack of confidence in one's own idea, giving evasive answers to questions asked by superiors, hesitancy of manner and speech, deceit in both words and deeds, lack of ambition, mental and physical laziness, lack of assertion, slowness in reaching decisions easily influenced by others, the habit of criticizing others behind their backs and flattering them to their faces, the habit of accepting defeat without protest, quitting an undertaking when opposed by others, suspicious of others without cause, lacking in tactfulness of manner and speech, unwillingness to accept the blame for mistakes. The fear of ill health. This fear may be traced to both physical and social heredity. Sorry. It is closely associated as to its origin with the causes of fear of old age and the fear of death, because it leads one closely to the border of terrible worlds, of which man knows not, but concerning which he has been taught some discomforting stories. The opinion is somewhat general also that certain unethical people engaged in the business of selling health have not a little to do with keeping alive the fear of ill health. Now, here's what's so crazy to me. The fear of ill health, the fear of dying. And I'm wondering, especially in the African American communities and Latino communities and the ethnic communities, maybe we don't have the fear of ill health and fear of death. Because if we did, we would spend more time concerned with what we put in our mouths, concerned with whether we're moving our bodies daily. Because in the main, man fears ill health because of the terrible pictures which have been planted in his mind of what may happen if death should overtake him. He also fears it because of the economic toll which it may claim. You know, being sick is expensive. A reputable physician estimated that 75% of all people who visit physicians for professional service are suffering with hypochondria, which is imaginary illness. It has been shown most convincingly that the fear of disease, even where there is not the slightest cause for fear, often produces the physical symptoms of the disease that they're feared. Powerful and mighty is the human mind. It builds or it destroys. Whoo! Powerful and mighty is the human mind. It builds or it destroys. Y'all need to type that in the comments. Playing upon this weakness of fear or ill health, dispensers of patent medicines have reaped fortunes. The pharmaceutical industry. They've reaped fortunes because they play upon the weakness of the fear of ill health. This form of imposition upon credulous humanity became so prevalent some 20 years ago that Collier's Weekly magazine conducted a bitter campaign against some of the worst offenders in the patent medicine business. During the flu epidemic, which broke out during the World War, the mayor of New York City took drastic steps to check the damage with which people were doing themselves through their inherent fear of ill health. Through a series of experiments, and I just skipped a little paragraph there. Through a series of experiments conducted some years ago, it was proved that people may be made ill by suggestion. So, if we can be made ill by suggestion, we can also be made well by suggestion also. We conducted this experiment by causing 3 acquaintances to visit the victims, each of whom asked the question, "What ails you? You look terribly ill." The first questioner usually provoked a grin and a nonchalant, "Oh, nothing, I'm all right," from the victim. The second questioner usually was answered with the statement, "I don't know exactly, but I do feel badly." The third questioner was usually met with the frank admission that the victim was actually feeling ill. Try this on an acquaintance if you doubt that it will make him uncomfortable, but do not carry the experiment too far. There is a certain religious sect whose members take vengeance upon their enemies by the hexing method. They call it placing a spell on the victim. There's an overwhelming evidence that disease sometimes begins in the form of negative thought impulse. Such as impulse may be passed from one mind to another by suggestion or created by an individual in his own mind. A man who was blessed with more wisdom than the incident might indicate once said, "When anyone asks me how I feel, I always want to answer by knocking him down." Doctors send patients into new climates for their health because a change of mental attitude is necessary. A change of mental attitude is necessary. The seed of fear of ill health lives in every human mind. Worry, fear, discouragement, disappointment in love and business affairs cause this seed to germinate and grow. The recent business depression kept the doctors on the run because every form of negative thinking may cause ill health. Disappointments in business and in love stand at the head of the list of causes of the fear of ill health. A young man suffered a disappointment in love, which sent him to a hospital. For months, he hovered between life and death. A specialist in suggestive therapeutics was called in. The specialist changed nurses, placing him in charge of a very charming young woman who began by prearrangement with the doctor to make love to him the first day of her arrival on the job. Within 3 weeks, the patient was discharged from the hospital, still suffering, but with an entirely different malady. He was in love again. The remedy was a hoax, but the patient and the nurse were later married. Both are in good health at the time of this writing. So we have the symptoms of the fear of ill health. What are those symptoms of the fear of ill health? The symptoms of this almost universal fear are autosuggestion, the habit of negative use of self-suggestion by looking for and expecting to find the symptoms of all kinds of diseases, enjoying imaginary illness and speaking of it as being real, the habit of trying all fads and isms recommended by others as having therapeutic value. Then we've got the hypochondria, right? The habit of talking of illness, concentrating the mind upon disease and expecting its appearance until a nervous break occurs. Then we've got exercise. Fear of ill health often interferes with proper physical exercise and results in overweight by causing one to avoid outdoor life. Susceptibility is the fear of ill health breaks down nature's body resistance and creates a favorable condition for any form of disease one may contact. The fear of ill health often is related to the fear of poverty, especially in the case of the hypochondriac, who constantly worries about the possibility of having to pay doctor bills, hospital bills, etc. Self-coddling, the habit of making a bid for sympathy. You know, there are people that are always looking for some kind of sympathy. Then we've got intemperance, the habit of using alcohol or narcotics to destroy the pains, such as headaches, neuralgia, etc., instead of eliminating the cause. Then we've got the fear of the loss of love. The original source of this inherent fear needs but little description because it obviously grew out of a man's polygamous habit of stealing his fellow man's mate and his habit of taking liberties with her whenever he could. Jealousy and other forms of dementia grow out of a man's inherited fear of the loss of love of someone. This fear is the most painful of all the 6 basic fears. It probably plays more havoc with the body and the mind than any other of the basic fears, as it often leads to permanent insanity. The fear of the loss of love probably dates back to the Stone Age when men stole women by brute force. They continue to steal females, but their technique has changed. Instead of force, they now use persuasion, the promise of pretty clothes, motor cars, and other bait, much more effective than physical force. Man's habits are the same as they were at the dawn of civilization, but he just expresses them differently. Careful analysis has shown that women are more susceptible to this fear than men. This fact has easily explained that women have learned from experience that men are polygamous by nature, that they are not to be trusted in the hands of rivals. Why are more women more nervous or more fearful to not ever have love? Because there are less men that they are available for women. And women know that their biological clock is ticking. So if a woman has not had children, she's not bared any children, she has not found love, she is never married, she is more fearful as she begins to grow older that it is never, ever going to happen for her. What are the symptoms of the fear of loss of love? The distinguishing symptoms of this fear are jealousy, the habit of being suspicious of friends and loved ones without any reasonable evidence of sufficient grounds. Jealousy is a form of dementia precoce, which sometimes becomes violent without the slightest cause. The habit of accusing your wife or your husband of infidelity without grounds. General suspicion of everyone. Absolute faith in no one. This sounds like more what is the word I'm looking for? Oh gosh, I've got it. When you're constantly accusing people of infidelity, that's insecurity. All right. That's more than just jealousy. It's insecurity. Fault finding. The habit of finding fault with friends, relatives, business associates, and loved ones upon the slightest provocation or without any cause whatsoever. Gambling. The habit of gambling, stealing, cheating, and otherwise taking hazardous chances to provide money for loved ones with the belief that love can be bought. The habit of spending beyond one's means and incurring debts to provide gifts for loved ones with the object of making a favorable showing. Insomnia, nervousness, lack of persistence, weakness of will, lack of self-control, lack of self-reliance, and a bad temper. Then we've got the fear of old age, which we know what that means, right? The most common fear of old age is associated with the possibility of poverty with the poorhouse, meaning now as we're aging, we're afraid of what? Not accomplishing our dreams, not ever having loved, diminishing sex attraction. Like when we grow older, when naturally things start to take place, like gravity takes place in our body and our body begins to not look like it did when we were younger. The basic fear of old age, man, has two very sound reasons for this apprehension. One, growing out of his distrust of his fellow man who may seize whatever worldly goods he may possess, and the other arising from the terrible pictures of the world beyond which were planted in his mind through social heredity become before he became into full possession of his mind. The possibility of ill health, which is more common as people grow older, is also a contributing cause of this common fear of old age. What are some of the symptoms of the fear of old age? The most common symptoms are the tendency to slow down and develop an inferiority complex at the age of mental maturity around the age of 40. Woo! Falsely believing oneself to be slipping because of the age. The truth is that man's most useful years, mentally and spiritually, are those between 40 and 60. I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know why men dread turning 40 and women dread turning 50 when you are not finding yourself until you're around 40 to 60. Those are the years that you thrive in life. You have kind of stabilized. You're not trying to run all over the place for the most part. And you found yourself between the ages of 40 and 60. The habit of speaking apologetically of oneself as being old. You're not old. You're literally just starting to live at 40 and 50. Merely because one has reached the age of 40 or 50, instead of reversing the rule and expressing gratitude for having reached the age of wisdom and understanding. The habit of killing off initiative, imagination, and self-reliance by falsely believing oneself too old to exercise these qualities. The habit of the man or woman of 40 dressing with the aim of trying to appear much younger. What does that mean? No, I'm going to dress in whatever I want to wear. Right? Aim of the trying to appear much younger and affecting mannerisms of youth. What does that mean? That is the most ludicrous thing I have ever heard of my life. Oh, don't you know how old you are? Yes, I do. I certainly do. Then we've got the fear of death. The fear of death. To some, this is the cruelest of all basic fears. The reason is obvious. The terrible pangs of fear associated with the thought of death in the majority of cases may be charged directly to religious fanaticism. So-called heathen are less afraid of death than the more civilized. For hundreds of millions of years, man has been asking the still unanswered questions: whence and whither? Where did I come from and where am I going? While religious leaders may not be able to provide safe conduct into heaven, nor by the lack of such provision allow the unfortunate to descend into hell, the possibility of the latter seems so terrible that this very thought of it lays hold of the imagination in such a realistic way that it paralyzes reason and sets up the fear of death. If the truth, in truth, no man knows, no man has ever known what heaven or hell is like, nor does any man if either place actually exists. This very lack of positive knowledge opens the door of the human mind to the charlatan, so he may enter and control the mind with his stock of legerdemain, and various brands of pious fraud and trickery. Of course, this is one man's opinion. This is not the Bible. This is one man's opinion. So I don't need all the religious gurus right now. Like, what are they talking about? Heaven and hell is real. Well, this is one man's opinion. The fear of death is not as common now as it was during the age when there were no great colleges and universities, right? Men of science have turned to the spotlight of truth upon the world, and this truth is rapidly freeing men and women from this terrible fear of death. This fear is useless. Death will come. Here's the deal. Here's the thing. We all have a date that we were born, and we all have a date that we're going to expire. There is no way that we can get around that. Death will come, no matter what anyone may think about it. Accept it as a necessity and pass the thought out of your mind. Here's the deal. Why don't you start living life every single day as if you know that death is going to happen? Take care of your health. Take care of your finances. Take care of your mind. Take care of your family. Live, enjoy, travel, get out of the house, go breathe, go for a walk, see the nature, see the sights, take the trip, start the business. Life is energy. Put that in the comments. Life is energy. If it is anything, if neither energy nor matter can be destroyed, of course life cannot be destroyed. Life, like other forms of energy, may be passed through various processes of transition or change, but it cannot be destroyed. Death is transition. Death does not destroy life. Death means that you transition. If death is not mere change or transition, then nothing comes after death except a long, eternal, peaceful sleep. And sleep is nothing to be feared. Thus, you may wipe out forever the fear of death. So what are the symptoms of fear or death? You know, the only people that are really afraid of dying are the people that are not living their purpose. But if you're living your purpose every single day, you know that your death will come at the appointed time, not at just a time, but at the appointed time. So the symptoms are death. General symptoms of this fear are the habit of thinking about dying instead of making the most of life. Stop focusing on death. Focus on making the most of life. Due generally to the lack of purpose or the lack of suitable occupation. This fear is more prevalent among the aged, but sometimes the more youthful are victims of it as well. The greatest of all remedies for the fear of death is a burning desire for achievement backed by useful service to others. A busy person seldom has time to think about dying. He finds life too thrilling to worry about death. Sometimes the fear of death is closely associated with the fear of poverty, where one's death would leave loved ones poverty-stricken. Then we've got the old man of worry. Worry is a state of mind based upon fear. Worry is a state of mind based upon fear. It works slowly but persistently. In this insidious and subtle, step by step, it digs itself in until it paralyzes one's reasoning faculty. It destroys self-confidence and initiative. Worry is a form of sustained fear. Worry is a form of sustained fear caused by indecision. Therefore, it is a state of mind which can be controlled. Period. Do you understand that you're not at your best capacity? You're not performing well if you're worried all the time. It is a form of sustained fear caused by your indecision. Therefore, it is a state of mind which can be controlled. An unsettled mind is helpless. Indecision makes an unsettled mind. While most individuals lack the willpower to reach decisions promptly and to stand by them after they have been made, even during normal business conditions, during periods of economic unrest, such as the world recently experienced and is experiencing right now. The individual is handicapped, not alone by his inherent nature to be slow at reaching decisions, but he is influenced by the indecision of others around him who have created a state of mass indecision. Worry. We do not worry over conditions once we have reached a decision. We do not worry over conditions once we have reached a decision to follow a definite line of action. Period. What is the game plan? What is the plan of action? Get to work. You know, it's so amazing as I planned out the month of April for our team. And one of the words I have for the team is activate. It is time to activate. You know, people think they need more training and I need more this and I need more that. And the reality of it is so you get on these book clubs and you get on these trainings and you take these copious notes, then you close the book and put the book on the shelf. What difference does it make if you get off and you won't activate? If someone shows you, hey, if you exercise this muscle, this amount of times, this is going to happen if you do this, and you won't move. Move. Take action. Because we do not worry over conditions once we have reached the decision to follow a definite line of action. And I am skipping around a little bit because I want to end this today. All right? I made up in my mind then to accept my fate in good spirit. Here's the thing. We cannot change. We have to learn to accept the things that we cannot change. Period. If we can't change them, okay. Next, create a new scenario. Create a new scenario. And you know, here's the thing that really bothers me. I give coaching and I've told people to do certain things that they take their sweet little time to do. Now you're in a financial situation that you wouldn't be in had you started sooner. But you know everything. You know how to do everything. And you're going to do it on your little sweet time. But months and months and months and months and months and months and months ago, I suggested that you do X, Y, and Z. You didn't do it. You sat around doing nothing. Every day I coach people and I tell them what to do on social media. This is what you need to do. This is your plan of action. Why? I should stop taking phone calls from people who cannot follow a simple instruction. If you want to see your business grow, do X, Y, and Z, and you don't. Then you sit around complaining about this money problem. Well, the money problem is because you're hard-headed. You ask for coaching and then don't do what the coach says. You ask for mentoring and then don't do what the mentor says. Hard-headed. And now your money is reflecting the fact that you don't listen. Put up a reel every day. Go live once a day. Go do X, Y, and Z. And I give all of these steps to people who don't listen. We do not worry over conditions once we have reached a decision to follow a definite line of action. Relieve yourself forever for the fear of death by reaching a decision to accept death as an inescapable event. Whip the fear of poverty by reaching a decision to get along with whatever wealth you accumulate without worry. So I'm missing something. Hold on. The 6 basic fears become translated into a state of worry. Let me go back a little bit. As he spoke, he devoured a dinner proportion sufficient for 3 men. This one person ate the amount of food. He piled on his plate and ate what 3 men could have eaten. Eating every mouthful of the food brought to him and apparently enjoying it as much as if no disaster awaited him. So you're just eating yourself to death. Decision gave this man resignation to his fate. Decision can also prevent one's acceptance of undesired circumstances. So you want to change your life? Make a decision and stick to it. Not for just a week or 2 weeks or a month, but every day of your life, you wake up and you decide again. The 6 basic fears become translated into a state of worry through indecision. Relieve yourself forever of the fear of death by reaching a decision to accept death as an inescapable event. Whip the fear of poverty by reaching a decision to get along with whatever wealth you accumulate and cannot work without worry. Put your foot upon the neck of the fear of criticism by reaching a decision not to worry about what other people think, do, or say. Eliminate the fear of old age by reaching a decision to accept it, not as a handicap, but as a great blessing which carries with it wisdom, self-control, and understanding not known to youth. Acquit yourself of the fear of ill health by the decision to forget the symptoms. How about equip yourself of the fear of ill health by deciding to do something about your health right now? Master the fear of loss of love by reaching a decision to get along with without love, if that is necessary, because you've got the love of God. Kill the habit of worry in all of its forms by reaching a general blanket decision that nothing with which life has to offer is worth the price of worry. With this decision will come poise, peace of mind, and calmness of thought, which will bring happiness. A man whose mind is filled with fear not only destroys his own chances of intelligent action, but he transmits these destructive vibrations to the minds of all who come into contact with him and destroys also their chances. So guess what? If you're sitting around full of worry and fear, you're transmuting that. And that's what you're attracting into your life. Even a dog or a horse knows when its master lacks courage. Moreover, a dog or a horse will pick up the vibrations of fear thrown off by its master and behave accordingly. Lower down the line of intelligence in the animal kingdom, one finds this same capacity to pick up the vibrations of fear. A honeybee immediately senses the fear in the mind of a person. For reasons unknown, a bee will sting the person whose mind is releasing vibrations of fear much more readily than it will molest the person whose mind registers no fear. The vibrations of fear pass from one mind to another just as quickly and as surely as the sound of the human voice passes from the broadcasting station to the receiving set of a radio, and by the same medium. Mental telepathy is a reality. Thoughts pass from one mind to another voluntarily, whether or not this fact is recognized by either the person releasing the thoughts or the persons who pick up those thoughts. The person who gives expression by word of mouth to negative or destructive thought is practically certain to experience the results of those words in the form of destructive kickback. The release of destructive thoughts, impulses alone without the aid of words produces also a kickback in more ways than one. First of all, and perhaps most important to be remembered, the person who releases thoughts of a destructive nature must suffer damage through the breaking down of the faculty of creative imagination. Secondly, the presence in the mind of any destructive emotion develops a negative personality which repels people and often converts them into antagonists. The third source of damage to the person who entertains or releases negative thoughts lies in this significant fact. These thought impulses are not only damaging to others, but they embed themselves in the subconscious mind of the person releasing them and become a part of his character. One is never through with a thought merely by releasing it. When a thought is released, it spreads in every direction through the medium of the ether, but it also plants itself permanently in the subconscious mind of the person releasing it. Which is why I don't play that. Don't come around me with no negativity. Don't wake up negative. Don't go to bed negative. Get out of my space with that. I don't want that jumping on me. I always see the positive in everything. I always believe that God's going to come through. I may not know how, and I may not know when, but doggone it, get away from me with that stinking thinking. Get away. And if you can't see the positive, knowing that God always answers, and could it be that you're receiving or in a season of lack because you don't listen? Your business in life is presumably to achieve success. Your business in life is presumably to achieve success. Oh, but I'm just so tired. From what? Of what? If you're walking in purpose, you ain't tired. You can get tired in it, but you won't get tired of it. Tired is lazy. Tired is a frame of mind. Get up. We got purpose lying dormant within us. To be successful, you must find peace of mind, acquire the material needs of life, and above all, to attain happiness. All of these evidence of success begin in the form of thought, impulses. Think and grow rich. You may control your own mind. You have the power to feed it whatever thought impulses you choose. With this privilege goes also the responsibility of using it constructively. You are the master of your own earthly destiny. Just as surely as you have the power to control your own thoughts, you may influence, direct, and eventually control your own environment, making your life what you want it to be. Or you may neglect to exercise the privilege which is yours to make your life to order, thus casting yourself upon the broad sea of circumstance, where you will be tossed hither and yon like a chip on the waves of the ocean. The devil's workshop is the seventh basic evil. In addition to the six basic fears, there's another evil by which people suffer. It constitutes enriched soil in which the seeds of failure grow abundantly. It is so subtle that its presence often is not detected. This affliction cannot properly be classed as a fear. It is more deeply seated and more often fatal than all of the other six fears. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. An idle mind is the devil's workshop. And it is stronger than all of the other six fears. For want of a better name, let us call this evil susceptibility to negative influences. Men who accumulate great riches always protect themselves against evil. The poverty-stricken never do. See, I don't fool around with evil. I don't fool around with negativity. I don't fool around with I don't allow that in my space. I don't allow it from my spouse or my children. I don't even allow my dog to be negative. Don't nobody bring me no bad news. I don't allow it in my space. I don't allow, and you know why? That's why people don't call me with no foolishness, because they know that I don't want to hear it. And some of you, you know why you're feeling the way you feel? Weighted and bloated, because you're a garbage can. And you keep allowing people to come and dump garbage in your can. And now you stink, you got maggots all over you, you become a garbage can, you're bloated, you're weighted, you're blowing up, gaining weight, because you are a garbage can and you've allowed people's negativity. Well, I can't get no business and I don't have no clients. Well, go find some new ones. Go make some new friends. Get on my mastermind class this Wednesday night at 9:00 and figure out how to find your new tribe. If the people in your surrounding are not giving you what you need or what you want, get rid of them. Let them go. Go find some new people. Oh, but you're too afraid to do that. Oh, you know why? Because you done got older in your 40s and your 50s, and now you don't want to let no new people in. So you're sitting around rehearsing all of this stuff because you won't allow something new to come into your life. Men who accumulate great riches always protect themselves against evil. Those who succeed in any calling must prepare their minds to resist evil. Type it in the chat, resist evil. If you are reading this philosophy for the purpose of accumulating riches, you should examine yourself very carefully to determine whether you are susceptible to negative influences. If you neglect this self-analysis, you will forfeit your right to attain the object of your desires. I never lose. I learn. I never lose. You know, I've flown places, and I was sharing while I was in San Francisco this week, because the outcome was not immediately as favorable as we desired. I hope you heard my word. But I kept a positive demeanor the entire time that I was there. It may not immediately be what I desire, but I went and planted some seeds. You got to understand that I have flown to other states where the hostess didn't even show up. Planting seeds for where I am at today. And I am expecting right now, and I declare and I decree it over my life, over my husband, over our family, over our home, and over anybody that is connected to us, that a major manifestation of wealth transformation is coming right now. It's coming. I declare and I decree that something big is getting ready to happen, and miracle signs and wonders are getting ready to happen. They're coming. See, but I'm going to declare it and not decree it. And some of y'all are sitting there, you won't even believe it because you'll believe it for everybody else but yourself. Because what you should be doing right now is lifting up your hands wherever you are, watching this and receiving what thus saith the Lord. Okay. If you're reading this philosophy, examine yourself. And if you neglect this self-analysis, you will forfeit your right to obtain the object of your desires. Make the analysis searching after you read the questions prepared for self-analysis and hold yourself to a strict accounting to your answers, in your answers. Go at the tasks as carefully as you would search for any other enemy you knew to be awaiting you in the ambush, and deal with your own faults as you would with a more tangible enemy. The person that's in the mirror is your tangible enemy. The person that's in the mirror is your tangible energy. The person in the mirror is your tangible energy. You can easily protect yourself against highway robbers because the law provides organized cooperation for your benefit. But the seventh basic evil, the devil's workshop, it begins here, y'all. It's more difficult to master because it strikes you where you're not aware of its presence when you are asleep and while you are awake. Moreover, its weapon is intangible because it consists merely of a state of mind. Guard your mind with the helmet of salvation. This evil is also dangerous because it strikes in many different forms. As there are human experiences, sometimes it enters the mind through the well-meant words of one's own relatives. See, I keep telling y'all, you keep taking these messages from people and talking to people, and then all of a sudden you find that you thinking negative. Your business is gone backwards, and you letting people call you with the woe is me. Get off my phone. Get off my phone. Sometimes it enters the mind through the well-meant words. People call it, they don't mean no harm. And you start hearing that negative banter, get off my phone. You know what? I got to take this call. I got to go. I don't know what's going on with you, but I got to go. I'm not dealing with your negativity. And you think you're calm. I just don't know what's going on. And you spreading seeds. At other times, it bores from within with one's own mental attitude, with your personal own mental attitude. Always as it is deadly as poison, even though it may not kill as quickly. So how do you protect yourself against negative influences? To protect yourself against these negative influences, whether whether of your own making or as the result of activities of negative people around you, recognize that you have a willpower and put it into constant use until it builds a wall of immunity against negative influences in your own mind. See, I've built a wall of immunity. You can ask my husband. I don't let nobody's negativity influence mine. God bless you. None. No one. Because I've built a wall of immunity against negative influence. Recognize that the fact that you and every other human being are by nature lazy, indifferent, and susceptible to all suggestions which harmonize with your weaknesses. So here's the deal. You can only receive things based on, because it harmonizes with where you are already weak. So if you all of a sudden find yourself wearing someone else's disposition, it's because you were already weak. You don't have a wall of immunity built up against negative influences towards your own mind. Recognize that you are by nature susceptible to all 6 basic fears and set up habits for the purpose of counteracting all of those fears. Clean out your medicine chest. Throw away all the pills and the bottles and stop pandering to your colds, your aches, and your pains, and your imaginary illnesses. Oh, I was just having one of my spells. Really? Well, then you desired it. You wanted to be able to use that as an excuse to be lazy, indifferent. Recognize negative influences often work on you through your subconscious mind. Therefore, they are difficult to detect and keep your mind closed against all people who depress or discourage you in any way. Deliberately seek out the company of people who influence you to think and act for yourself. Do not expect troubles, as they have the tendency to not disappoint. Without doubt, the most common weakness of all human beings is the habit of leaving their minds open to the negative influence of other people. I wish I would. I wish I would. I don't play them games. This weakness is all the more damaging because most people do not even recognize that they are cursed by it. And many who acknowledge it neglect or refuse to correct the evil until it becomes an uncontrollable part of their daily habits. To aid those who wish to see themselves as they really are, the following list of questions have been prepared. Read your questions and state your answers out loud so you can hear your own voice. This is the self-analysis test questions. And I'm going to read these and then we're going to be done because this is the end of the book for us. There's a lot of self-analysis questions. Actually, we were really supposed to stop, but I went ahead and finished it out. So let me say this. Let me say, yeah. Hold on one second. I'm just looking at something key. Okay. All right. Self-analysis test questions. Here goes some. Many of you have the book. And for those of you, I'm not going to read them all. For those of you who don't have the book, you can Google self-analysis questions in Think and Grow Rich. Because this is really the end of the book. We're really done. All right, you guys, you made it. Hold on. Let's stop. Applaud. Give yourselves a round of applause. You made it. And I know I sound like I'm fussing because I am, because I'll be doggone if you're going to let somebody be negative around you. All right. Do you complain? No, you know what? Here's the other thing. When you read these questions, you got to be brutally honest with yourself. There are some people who cannot receive any help because you're lying to yourself. You are like thinking you're better than you are. And it's okay. Listen, the only way, what I love about the profession that I'm in, because one of the things that I do, my main source of income comes from network marketing. And one of the things that I love about network marketing is it builds character, exposes flaws, and compresses time. But you got to expose your flaws to build the character. So be brutally honest with yourself. Because if you keep lying to yourself and you're wondering why life is the way it is, business is the way it is, it's because you're lying to yourself. It doesn't make you a bad person to admit that you've got some areas, and we've got areas that we all need to fine tune. Okay? So I'm going to read a few of these. Do you complain often of feeling bad? And if so, what's the cause? Do you find fault with other people at the slightest provocation? Do you frequently make mistakes in your work? And if so, why? Are you sarcastic and offensive in your conversation? You know, people who are always sarcastic, that's because they're hiding stuff. Okay, anyway. Do you deliberately avoid the association of anyone? And if so, why? Do you suffer frequently with indigestion? If so, why? What's the cause? Does life seem futile and the future hopeless to you? If so, why? Do you like your occupation? If not, why? Do you often feel self-pity? Why? If so, why? Are you envious of those who excel? You. To which do you devote most time? Thinking of success or thinking of failure? Are you gaining or losing self-confidence as you grow older? Do you learn something of value from all mistakes? Are you permitting some relative or acquaintance to worry you? If so, why? Even your children. Are you sometimes in the clouds and at other times in the depths of despondency? Who has the most inspiring influence upon you, and what is the cause? Do you tolerate negative or discouraging influences which you can avoid? Are you careless of your personal appearance? If so, when and why? Have you learned how to drown your troubles by being too busy to be annoyed by them? Would you call yourself a spineless weakling if you permitted others to do your thinking for you? Do you neglect internal bathing until auto intoxication makes you ill-tempered and irritable? How many preventable disturbances annoy you, and why do you tolerate them? Do you resort to liquor, narcotics, or cigarettes to quiet your nerves? If so, why? Do you not try try willpower instead? Does anyone nag you? And if so, for what reason? Do you have a definite major purpose? And if so, what is it? And what plan do you have for achieving it? Do you suffer from any of the 6 basic fears? If so, which ones? Do you make deliberate use of autosuggestion to make your mind positive? Has today added anything of value to your stock of knowledge or state of mind? Does your religion help you to keep your own mind positive? Do you feel it in your duty to share other people's worries? If so, why? What habits of other people annoy you most? Do you form your own opinions or permit yourself to be influenced by other people? Does your presence have a negative influence on people as a rule? Can you name 3 of your most damaging weaknesses? What are you doing to correct them? Do you analyze all mistakes and failures and try to profit by them? Or do you take the attitude that this is not your duty? Do you face squarely the circumstances that make you unhappy or sidestep the responsibility? Do you encourage other people to bring their worries to you for sympathy? How much time out of 24 hours do you devote to your occupation, sleep, play and relaxation, acquiring useful knowledge, or just plain waste? How much TV time are you giving yourself? What's your greatest worry, and why do you tolerate it? By what rules do you judge who is helpful and who is damaging to you? Are your intimate associates mentally superior or inferior to you? Who among your acquaintances encourages you the most, cautions you the most, discourages you the most, or helps you most in other ways? Do you cater to people because of their social or financial statuses? Whom do you believe to be the greatest person living? In what respect is this person superior to you? And so on and so on and so on and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, Think and Grow Rich was a powerful reading for us. And I'm going to tell you guys that I have thoroughly enjoyed this book, but I've thoroughly enjoyed reading this book with you. So just know that next Monday, we start our new book, The Mountain Is You. And I am just praying that you will share book club with someone. Let them know that you've grown so much. Take some time to reflect on what Think and Grow Rich has done for you. And I pray that you allowed those words, and I'm grateful that you allowed me in your life to help to guide you through this personal growth and development. I pray that you would have rich blessings and that you would be kind to one another, right? Do a good deed this week. Pay it forward. But listen, you got to go get registered. Right? Because this Wednesday night, I am going to host a mastermind. And what you got to do is go to ninamoorer.com to get registered for Wednesday night's mastermind. Make sure you bring somebody with you. Sponsor somebody to come. But there's the link right there. Run and go register for the social media. This is going to be how to attract your tribe, how to find your humans on social media, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're in ministry, and or you are seeking to become an entrepreneur. This is for you. Make sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel, The Wellness Queen, right? Where I'm going to continue to teach you how to get well and get wealthy, total wholeness, total and holistic wholeness and wellness of our mind, body, soul, spirit, finances, bank account, the whole 9, right? So make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you don't ever miss anything that we're doing here on Book Club. So listen, have an amazing rest of your evening. Have an amazing rest of your week. Don't you forget to meet us here as we're going to start The Mountain Is You. Always remember this, that God loves you. I love you, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. We'll see you soon.